I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to episode 2 of the Transfer Market Metrics. The season's over, but transfer fever is ramping up, ladies and gents. And when you get hit with a fever, what do? You call the doctor. So I am delighted to say for the second episode, and I know he'll love the pun as well, Dr. Bart is with me. Bart, how are we?
I'm not bad, mate. Not bad. Loving the cheese today. It's really good. That's good. I'm loving it.
Well, we'll see if they all love it when we go through what we go through. Because what have we got in episode 2, ladies and gents? We've got the threat thing, as Bart's called it earlier. So we'll tell you all about that and what's coming this season. Now, this is the juicy stuff you want. What are the targets? Who are we talking about? We're talking about people who have been linked with us recently. So Leny Yoro, the little centre-halves on the block. We're talking about 6. Ederson and Varela will be discussing the pros and cons. And the attacking youngster, Bakayoko, he'll also be at the mix. So we've got 4 names, me and Bart, to get through for you tonight. Hopefully, ladies and gents, bringing an educational feel, a bit of up, a bit of the transfer show, and on we go from there. Now, Bart, I'm intrigued by this because technically I think people with the names of Kenneth Brundish would call it a high-level technical defensive analysis tool. I'm calling it the threat thing. Tell us all about what's coming next season.
It's something I've been working on from a off-air chat with Hamza, actually. And it's basically, we use a metric called threat or XT or EPB, whatever you want to call it, which is generally to look at how well an attack is doing to creating a goal-scoring opportunity, right? So we're generally using it to look at attacking side of the game. But then Hamza and Marie were chatting, and he was like, you can actually use it for a defensive side of the game. Because if you flip it around the other way, and rather than just looking at the attacking player associated with that action, if you then also map in the defensive player in that same zone, and you add that up and work that out as a percentage, you can look at how much threat that defensive player concedes, should we say. Now it's a proxy. It's not definite, but one of the biggest issues with defensive metrics that people may or may not understand is that the best defending is preventing an event from occurring in the first place.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So a recovery, a duel is generally because they've got to do something because something didn't happen. So if you then play that back and go, right, if you look at the threat they allow, that would then lead to an action potentially being incurred. And if someone who doesn't allow a lot of threat is potentially positioning himself or working well within a side that stops threats being created in their zone. So that's how the theory goes. And I'll go through a few of that with particularly today's episode because we're looking at defensive players. So we can chat all your day long about tackles and the rest of it. But as I said, they're not the greatest metric because they fundamentally look at something that shouldn't be happening in the first place with a good defender. You and I probably grew up watching Kenny's best side, Hansen playing at the back.
Yeah.
I doubt he would have looked good in any of these matches because he played the game, we read the game superbly well and didn't
Yeah.
really need to do a lot of the hard stuff. Maldini as well wasn't the best, didn't have to do a lot of that stuff. Baresi, all those great Italian
Yeah.
sides at the time, didn't have to do a lot of the stuff that would appear in metrics because they read the game so well, positioned themselves and made the player make the error before they got there, right? So that's generally where I'm coming at. We're trying to look at this, how much threat do they prevent from occurring in their area, which is basically without having to worry about looking at the individual metrics. That's where I'm trying to lay it on for this coming season, going forward. Yeah, and then hopefully, if I get a bit more time, I'll work out from that defensive zone how much they allow that threat to be converted into XG, which is the next super bit. So we also look at that from an attacking point of view as a plus point. We want to look at that from a defensive point. So how much the defender prevents the threat in their zone being converted to an XG chance. So yeah, that's where I'm at for this season. And I'll give you a little bit of a review of that today if we can.
Nice. Makes sense as well. Like you said, Baresi, you think you didn't see Baresi slide. You didn't see him chasing all the time for obvious reasons. That class of reading the game was there. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this does apply. And we might as well start on the defender then, as we said. Now, this is an interesting name. Leny Yoro, Bart. I mean, 18 years old and only 18 in November just gone. Done a full season for Lille, so very much a focus. A lot of people know him. And you've probably seen a lot of the stories. He's been linked with, I mean, we're talking big clubs now, aren't we? We're talking PSG, Real Madrid. He is a Jorge Mendes client, and Jorge likes his money, as we know. So his players normally like their money. So that's something to be said. David Lynch, quite a few other journos have said, yeah, Liverpool have definitely got this boy on their radar. And you've probably also seen it on social media. There's a lot of people, even in Discord, I've seen the likes of Patrick going like, this boy's generational, game-changing. There's some big statements being made around this kid. Is your model about to destroy everyone's hopes?
No, it's not. I mean, just going through the standard metrics, as we always normally do, because he's that young.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
If you look at, F-Brief, your percentiles, it doesn't really stand out. He's like 19 or from a defensive point of view, tackles 30th percentile, interceptions decent. Again, that's an action that's occurring because something else didn't occur. Blocks, he's in the first percentile, which ain't great. Clearances, 27th, and aerials 20. Now, aerials we've discussed. He did have a period where he was probably above where Liverpool need to be, which is the 70s, right? 70s, 80s. His average for this season, I think, is 60s or low 60s. So there's clearly peaks and trough. But he's a kid, right? So you can label that off. The stuff that is pleasing from some of the metrics is his pass completion. That's in the 93rd percentile. That's good. That's really good, right? For a centre half. Passes attempted, 68 percentile. So not great, but not bad. Successful take-ons again. So that's where he's taken a player on to make an angle or something else. Again, he's in the green, which is above 68 percentile. So that's again some of the things you think. Okay, yeah, all right. With these are not bad numbers. These could be more of a ball playing centre half, right?
Yeah. Which
I think is probably where people are looking for this player to be. Just to double down on that, just to confirm his aerials for this season is 63 finished on 63%, and that is winning 1.5 a game. Now, generally, our centre halves are between 4 and 8 a game each. So there's a bit of a volume difference there. Now, looking at some of the stuff I did on him, positioning wise, so obviously I can highlight a player on some of the past maps, and I picked all of these players. I picked out a singular game, but I've tried to look at the trends on FBreak and link it up to see where they are. So for him, this is him playing Paris Saint-Germain. All right, so he's quite deep on the right hand side, but that's against Mbappe. Yeah, so that is probably the toughest ask you're going to ask a kid to do in the French league, right? So he's passing the waves fairly decent. He's probably got two passes every other minute, should we say? Decent again, ball playing centre half. He actually appears in, those who follow UP know I do a passing chain. So he's actually at the starting point of a lot of those passing change for the side. Again, good things going forward. Ball playing centre half, part of the build phase, should we say? Yeah. If we then look at some of his wagon wheel profile, again, all of the attacking metrics come in. So on ball time for his time, EPV production, again, that start of the build phase, possession, passes, he's all in the outer quadrants for the team for that unit. So he's above average for his team, for defenders, which is different for a kid. Again, very impressive. All right. Now, the bit that we can come on to looking at that threat. So if we consider the zone he's in, right? He plays as, I think he's number 15, if I'm correct. Shirt number. So that's the right-hand, left half space for PSG in this game, right-hand centre half. So in his zones around him, if you add those up for the whole game against PSG, he allowed, for the one he's in and the one in front, should we say, 8% of the PSG's total threat. Now, you're thinking, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is a kid. His centre-half partner gives up 6%. It's a 2% difference from a far superior centre-forward. And who's he got on his channel? Mbappe, where the ball is going to go. So you start layering on that context and you think, do you know what? That's not a bad performance, right? The only downside from that is he completed no aerial duels in this game. So again, highlighting that problem that we might have, the Premier League is still very much, you have to be able to deal with the aerial ball, both in your 2 centre-half spaces and your 6. So for him to show up in a lot of games at, 1.5 aerials or below, that would be a slight concern of mine. But in terms of, does he look to be doing some of the stuff or has signs to be preventing threat occurring in his area of the pitch? Yes, it's either on par with a more experienced player beside him, which means he's got scale to improve, and he seems to be at the base of developing moves from his side. So that's, for me, there's some things there you think, I can see how that could work forward. I can see this potentially being at the right price, a good kid to bring on board, potentially.
Yeah, the potential. It's interesting, like you say, the aerials, because that's even below. We know how big our centre halves are. The behemoths, Quansah, Canate, BVD. Price, I think, is going to be interesting. It's like you say, because the original rumours at one point had it at like 77 million, which I think would discount him straight away. But with a year left and the talk of what's around it, 35 to 40 million is what a lot of the articles are saying. For an 18-year-old, as you said, who's got potential, starting moves, ball playing, you wouldn't be against it, would you, Bart? Be honest.
No, I wouldn't. It'd have to be the lower end of that, I'll be honest with you, because, you start getting to look at some of the prices quite for some of the Premier League players. They're at 60 million for established Premier League stars, and you're looking at a French kid, fundamentally centre-half, bringing him in at over 40. That gets a little bit. But, going the other way as well, he contributed 4% threat for his own team in that game. So, that ain't bad, right? So, I think around a 35, below 40, and I'd be like, I could see why we've done that. I could see why we would do that move.
Yeah, player that holds his own at 18 years old at centre-back gets against Mbappe. People are going to be looking at it, aren't they? It will be interesting to see.
If we don't, I think Edwards is... the backroom team now and the guys have a habit of buying players that have got a certain number of appearances in Europe. Right, he played Conference League, which I wasn't aware of until I started looking at data. You can't get great data on the Conference League, but I'm just saying he has played a season of Europe of that. He's played a league season. He's made this number of caps. I think he's got some. He's captain. Has he got international? I can't. He's playing internationally, but might have done. and he's performed okay. He's at the right age. They do have a habit of doing that kind of play. I remember Emre Can coming in.
Yeah, true.
Although a young kid, played a certain number of appearances, demonstrated there was promise to be built, and they went and it was a release clause, but they got him in at the same sort of thing. So they do have a habit of doing this kind of thing. And 35-40 might be today's 20 million quid that we spent on kids back then. So,
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It just will also be interesting to see how Jorge Mendes pull them strings and what wages we're talking at the same time. But that's the unknown of the transfer market. So yeah, we are not discounting Leny Yoro that we want to keep an eye on. And the 2 sixers, Bart, I find this fascinating because I'm seeing that, and you've probably seen it, the 2 names we've been linked with, a lot of people seem to want, understandably in certain ways, but there's viable stories around them. So we'll break them down one by one. Ederson and Varela. I find it fascinating the way people, as you probably do, bridge them together. I think we need to talk about them individually first a little bit as well. So 100%. Ederson's probably the hottest one, isn't he? Because, the Europa League final, obviously a key player when they beat us 3-0 at Anfield. So a lot of people look at it that way. He was even linked with us back in January, Barts, before sort of he came to more prominence, if that's the right phrase.
Yeah.
You look at the stuff that you've always told me, he's got a sample size. He's that Edwards age. He's 24. He's about to be 25, maybe the top end of the Edwards, the Liverpool FSG recruitment age. Contract till 2027, but Atalanta are known to necessarily sell players for the right money as well. I mean, he looks the physical unit and he's played well in these games. Are the stats showing the same? Should we be like, hold on, this is the boy? What are you seeing?
I think if we take, I've said about defensive metrics, but there's still some of the stuff we've got, and I'll look at some of the stuff I've done in a minute. But if we do look at that, so tackles, interception, blocks, clearances, where we always start, he is in the 75th or some mid-70s or high 80s percentiles for a lot of those, right? So although the caveat is that he's making things where something's gone wrong, but he is further forward, so there is a little bit of caveat. It's not like a centre half where he can read the entire picture and he shouldn't really do that. The 6 could still that. The thing you've always said to me, Atalanta's play is 1v1 defending, right?
Mental,
so that's a little bit different to zonal, right? So there is more of a chance where he is going to have to make a tackle with his 1v1 or he's going to have to block, because that's what he's in the side for, right? He plays in a 2. Right, I think I've got that right. I think unless I've completely missed my point. Yeah, I think he's playing in a 2. A lot of the pass map, it looks like he's playing with a guy next to him, right?
Yeah.
So, the bits that don't blow me away, I have to say, are his sort of contribution to us going forward. So, his progressive pass is actually 81%. Oh, that's pretty good for a 6, if I'm being honest. But passes attempted 55th percentile, pass completion 50th percentile. Take-ons, you don't really expect from a 6, to be fair. You wouldn't be doing that. But progressive passes received again, you wouldn't really do that. Carries, so he's more of a pass on a carry because he's in 39th percentile for carries. So he's literally going to sit in there, break stuff up, and then look to play a ball. Now that's okay, but with a 50%, 50% of pass completion, I think you could probably do. It's going to sound harsh, but I think you could do better on the attacking side of it. But the defensive side of it looks all right. If I overlay that with some of the stuff, so in terms of passing waves, he's not as even. He's involved less than Yoro was.
Right.
Wow. So that per minute, he's what? So I've got 15-minute blocks here. He has got a peak. He's got 2 peaks per 15-minute block, roughly. So that means he's making 4 passes per 15 minutes.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.
The delicious ice-cold taste of Dr. Pepper has a lasting effect on people. Lindsay from Sacramento said,
Pro tip, 40 degrees is the perfect temperature for an ice-cold Dr. Pepper.
Why is 40 degrees the perfect temperature for Dr. Pepper? We brought in Sue from Duluth, Minnesota to tell us.
Oh yeah, I know a thing or two about cold. Oh, that right there is the perfect kind of ice cold for Dr. Pepper. I'd share that with my friend Nancy. She likes Dr. Pepper too, you know. My coldest...
All right, that'll be all, Sue. Having a perfect temperature for your Dr. Pepper? It's a pepper thing. Inspired by real fan posts.
That ain't great. That's not something you really want to be involved. Well, let's caveat that's just something that maybe that isn't that side of his game. If we look at so then conversely, if we look at our wagon wheel, he the stuff that you want your six to do. So he is above average for his area for duels. Okay, great. That's what we want to see, and that's what we expect. Yeah. He's bang on or below average for passing or possession or on-ball time or EPV production, which are things that move him far away from the Thiago type of six to near the Fab dial. But even Fab was better involved in our build-up than Ederson looking like. And the things that worry me slightly is he's above average with shots from a midfielder. So I'm a little bit like, okay, but I mean, some people might like that. I prefer my sixes to just stay at home and do the job. Yeah. Defensively, so looking at how much, again, look, same sort of thing we looked at with Yoro. How much threat is he giving away? So I think he's playing number 13. Have I got that right? The shirt number. Yeah, I think that's right. So he's giving away about 12% a game.
Right. Hi.
Which.
Hello. I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own two-footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's in midfield, so you're going to expect that. But he is playing with a 2, so that's not as good as I would have expected. It is better in the first half versus second half if you split the game up. I've looked at, so there's some the changes that have affected negatively. But yeah, I would have expected it to be for those defensive metrics. I just, maybe I'm wrong. I would have expected that to be slightly better. But no, I think so. There is promise in terms of defensive metrics from the public domain stuff. The threat stuff, he doesn't seem to be preventing quite a lot of that, but that may be down to the way Atalanta play. It's a bit 1v1. They do like to invite you a little bit and then gobble you up in a certain area and then ping you on the counter, right? So there's a bit to the way potentially that affects the way the metrics come out from that playing point of view. But yeah, I have to say I wasn't blown away with this. I think you and I have said, does he move the dial? Is he better than Endo? And I think in some ways he is better than Endo in terms of age and some of his defensive metrics. Yeah. But I actually think Endo's probably better in terms of his possession-based stuff than Ederson. So we'd have to look at that. But so I think is he a slight upgrade? Probably. But the price being, you've probably got, what's the price being poached for this?
Interesting. The universal one that when you, depending on how well you can convert your euros at Tesco, you're talking around 45 million type of thing are the suggestions in articles. But yeah, no suggestion of a release clause either. So it could be an interesting negotiation. Yeah,
that says to me that things might go north of that if it gets, unless they don't get, if they get a bidding war in there, no, fair enough. But I think that's, again, I think we've said the problem with this market is I think you're either paying for potential to grow into something, so you get the right age bracket and you see signs of it. So there are signs there that his defensive metrics are sound. It's just the other side of the ball, because we are going to be a possession-based side. Can he contribute enough to warrant that in the side, and that's probably the question mark I have. But where else in the market are you going to get someone that does that for that price point? If it goes to 60, 70, 80, I'd probably not. I probably wouldn't put my money on the table for that.
Yeah, he's an interesting one. It's like you say, there's stuff to like. We need to be clear on that list.
Yeah,
like we
massively stuff to like. Yeah,
defensive stuff, the physicality element, great. There's definite stuff to like, and the metrics are there. It's when he's got the ball. I suppose people will be, because you know how people react, Bart. Is there a case, a bit of mitigation? Is it fair to say, like you mentioned, Gasperini plays a crazy system, when he pushes people one-on-one all over the pitch, swamps it. So this boy can find himself in a multitude of positions, like angles, zones, as we call it, importantly as well. Is that fair to say, based on that? And, as you rightly mentioned, Atalanta are happy to give up possession and lose that metric quite easily because they're going to swamp you in certain areas and go for it. Is that a factor, is it fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's not unfair to say. I just looked at his passing connection. So in the game against us, right, there's a minimum threshold for passing connections I normally have, right, which is a set of passing between two sets of players. I had to bring that down for him. Normally it's set of 5.
Wow.
So I brought this down to 2 as a threshold. He's only got 4 connections, right? So he basically passed to 4 players, 3 of them are behind him. So I'm not saying there is stuff to like, there is things to go. And maybe, again, that's a tactical thing. It's get the ball, pass it sideways.
Yeah, just give it someone. Right? Yeah.
And then the fullback plays it forward, which, again, if at some of the pass maps, that is fundamentally what happened. So you might be spot on. That could be a tactical instruction he's got to do. And that he might have another side of him that comes out when he plays in their more possession side. But it's not quite there in a metric. I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we said, he's going to be a phenomenal player on a ball, because I don't think the evidence is there in the metrics.
Interesting. If it's not there, it isn't there. And maybe we're almost going to the other side of the coin here. Alan Varela, the Porto midfielder. I mean, this is an interesting one, Bart. I mean, he was linked with us last summer when, before he's made the move from Boca to Porto. Yeah. Very much. And speaking to sort of a few Portuguese sort of football experts we have on AI when I've been digging around, very much describing it almost like a Thiago, who you mentioned earlier. They say he's very good on the ball. Then I asked them, this will be interesting to see if the stats bear this out, what about him in the physicality of the Premier League? And there was a kind of type of moment, shall we say, in that discussion. Are the stats getting rid of that, or can you see why there's the long pause and consideration in it?
Yeah, if we go same process, right? Ederson was in the late 70s, mid 80s for the defensive metrics, right? Percentiles. This boy's highest percentile is 60.
Wow.
Which is aerials, right? Clearance is 54 percentile, blocks 57, interceptions 44, tackles 36. So I'm not saying he's I don't know. It's just maybe not what. Again, he's another one I think plays in next to a buddy. So what his partner does a lot of the work for, because his passing, attempted passing 96 percentile, pass completion 94 percentile, progressive passes 74 percentile, better than Ederson's. Doesn't carry the ball, same as Ederson. Take on doesn't do that. Penalty box touches 11 percentile. So again, he just stays in his zone, does what he's done. So he's almost his metrics for on the ball are in the 90th or like the lowest one, 75, right? Whereas his physical stuff, he's not anywhere near Ederson's. And again, you look at pass maps, he's involved in those kind of passing moves, should we say. He has about 2, 3, 4. So that he has about 8 passes per 15-minute period, which is almost double what Ederson was on. He's involved in double the amount of chains that Ederson was. So that's, again, another positive. He's actually got a progressive pass. This is a singular game I picked up for it. But anyway, he's got a progressive pass in zone 14 from his area. Again, you'd expect that from someone with the on-the-ball ability. His individual sort of wag and word, if you want to look at that. again, he's either at average or above average for all the metrics associated with a midfielder, apart from shots. Again, that's something I prefer. I don't want my DMs taking a shot. Thank you very much. So that wagon wheel pleases me more than Ederson's, but the defensive side of it, I'm not massively keen on that. But look at just checking his number one more time to make sure I'm not 22. Right. So if we look at what threat he gave up, so again using the similar zones, he gave up 12%, which is 4% below than Ederson. Yeah. This is a game against Arsenal.
Wow.
So Ederson's was against us. You could argue Arsenal at that time were probably a stronger side.
Yeah.
So is there a breakdown between second and first half? Yes. First half he gives up 12%. Second half he knocks that down to 9%. So there's a big difference in that change of tack, should we say? So, but again, it's very obvious when you break it down at this kind of looking at singular level. He plays with a partner, so there's another partner in the left side channel, right side channel for them. Arsenal and I can't remember who played there. It might be Martinelli or whatever. But sorry, their left channel. If you know what I mean, who he's played against. Yeah. So you could argue there's a difference in competition, should we say? In terms of what does he add going the other way? Let me just find his number quickly. So we're looking at about a 10% addition in terms of threat going the other way. So he adds a lot more going the other way for Porto. So for his side than Ederson, I think ended up being about a 2 difference. His is something like a 4 to 6 difference in terms of threat balance. So
fair enough.
I think there's some stuff there, but the level of his defensive stats would worry me because they are in really the percentiles they're in are quite low.
Yeah, and when you look at him, he profiles at 5'9", 5'10", depending on where you want to split the difference. Realistically, again, people will look and think Fabinho, physically dominant. He's not going to tick those metrics. Does it? I might be wrong on this, Bart, but tell me where you get this feel. I almost think back to last season when we were looking at sixes. Do you remember Andre at Fluminense came on the league? Like it was more like a Thiago style, a deep lying playmaker 100%. Rather than a sort of destroyer who could then just give it simple or do a few bits.
Yeah,
he seems to be in that metric a bit more, doesn't he, as opposed to Ederson, Fab, that style.
Yeah, definitely. He is a lot more in that Andre, that Thiago mould than the other bit. I mean, to be honest with you, Fab was in the middle, wasn't he? He was good on the ball. Maybe not. Sometimes we probably have a rose-tinted view of how good our players were, but he may not have been as good as we all thought he was on the ball, but he was very good on the ball. He still, the number of times he got into good positions, made good chip balls in behind, or had a shot, that they were good. Defensively, though, he was an absolute monster for a 2-3 year period. He was absolutely superb. So I think that side of the game is really important if we're going to go in with a singular 6. If we go in a double pivot, a little bit different. But if we go with 6, then you need an absolute defensive monster to do that. And any of our slot sides, they're still quite high up on. They still start high line. So you're still asking the back 3 diamonds, should we say, to defend large spaces behind. T6 is going to need to be able to do a lot of that work.
It's strange, isn't it? I mean, I like the stats you called out there. I mean, 96th percentile for Varela for those passes attempted, like 94th percentile for the completion as well. So he's obviously good on the ball. You talked about Ederson's defensive metrics as well and the difference. Is it fair to say, you can tell me if I'm wrong in this, Bart, chop them in half, put it together, you've probably got our perfect 6, haven't you, realistically, if you took half each side of the coin?
100%. The only area that would concern me with both of them is the height.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, the Premier League, you have to be able to deal with the aerial ball. And the way we've traditionally set up is our 2 centre-halves and our 6 deal with a lot of the balls coming in. Because the reason Fab was that height and he worked really well, again, as a defensive centre-half as well. So we dealt with that. Endo, to his credit, wins a lot of aerial duels. So you can be short, but you've got to win the aerial duels. And neither of these boys are setting that metric alight. So that would be because then you're relying on your 2 centre-halves to win everything. And it's always better to have 3 because you get depth to it as well. So
It's an interesting one for Varela as well, because the latest article it was an ESPN journalist, and I'm not going to embarrass myself with my Argentinian pronunciation, but didn't give a price in there, being honest, Bart. But the last article that was really of note from sort of the Portuguese side, and again, I'll probably pronounce this wrong, but Dioras had him around sort of the 60 million euros, which if you get euros at Tesco, probably translates to about 50, 51 million.
Yeah.
Is it a similar ballpark for Ederson? Like somewhere around that, it moves the dial, but if it starts going north of that figure, you're like, not for you.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of one cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
I'm Trent Alexander-Arnold.
I'm Curtis Jones.
I am Cody Gakpo.
Putting on the Liverpool top for the first time, it was a dream come true, and I'll never forget that moment.
The new LFC 24-25 season Nike home kit is out now.
Buy it today, along with our new goalkeeper kit and training range at your official LFC stores. Online at liverpoolfc.com/store and on the official LFC store app.
You will never walk alone.